Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Souls Finishing Strong Graduate Student Writing Clinic. This mini lesson is focused on transitional words and phrases. My name is Professor Emily Packer, and I'm so happy to be with you today, helping you with your writing journey. So how is this writing clinic going to be structured? We're going to be workshopping as we go. So please feel free to pause the video, rewind the video, speed it up even if you want to, but this is for you. Something that I really encourage you to do is to make sure that you have a document or documents up next to you on your screen, on paper, whatever works best for you, so that you can workshop your writing as we are going throughout the video. So for example, as we're working on our transitional words and phrases, you can check out one of your body paragraphs or a paper in general and start going through adding to some, adjusting others, or maybe just identifying them. But as always, please visit the Writing Center with questions and concerns if you have some. So before we jump in, let's check in with ourselves. What are you struggling the most with your transitions? So maybe this is that you don't have any transitions, you're not sure the different nuances of them, you're not really sure the purpose of them. So what are you struggling with the most? Just take a second and reflect on this. All right, so you can pause the video and keep reflecting if you want, but I want you to keep that at the forefront of your mind as we are working through our workshop today. So what are you struggling with the most? And hopefully this can help you. So transitional words and phrases. Now, transitional words and phrases can help create powerful links between ideas in your paper and can also help your reader understand your logic. Now, I just said two really key things. It creates powerful links between your ideas. So this is a great way to work on flow, organization, connection, but it also can help your reader understand your logic. And that's why understanding the nuances of transitional words and phrases is so important. This is a great way, instead of speaking directly to your reader, to explain what you mean in an academic way. So all transitional words and phrases have different meanings, connotations, and nuances. Now we have a lot of synonyms, but there's a reason that you might want to choose one over the other. Something I love to do when I'm writing is to have a transitional word or phrase list up next to me. And that way I can also double check and make sure that I'm not just using the same one over and over and over again in my writing. If you love the word therefore, Google synonyms of therefore and try to figure out other ways to differentiate your transitions, because otherwise it gets quite repetitive. I just find transitional words and phrases lists on Google, especially on Google Images. Those really help me. But there are lots of different categories that transitional words and phrases fall under. Here are some of the categories. There are more. Addition, when you're adding information. Comparison, when you're comparing information between two or more things. Effect, so like cause and effect. Intensification, when you're really narrowing down on a specific part. Clarification, when you're explaining yourself in a different way. Time, so this can be just a timeline of what you're explaining. Contrast, which could be comparison, but contrast means usually the opposite. Illustration, which means providing examples. Conclusion, when you're summing up, and then qualification when you're supporting. So again, we have, I think, about 9 or 10 categories right there. There are more, but these are the main categories. So understanding what the categories are and why they're used can really help us understand then the different transitional words and phrases. So when you look up lists online, you'll see that it's categorized. So if you have any questions about what any of these means, just let us know, because it's hard to use transitional words and phrases if you don't really know their purpose or their category. So it is important to note that you can use transitions very often and just really whenever is needed. So between sections of your paper, between paragraphs, within paragraphs. Mostly for academic writing, we use transitions within paragraphs. And that's really to show, again, the relation between the ideas that you're providing and you're explaining the purpose to your readers. So please take a second and pause and connect which transitional word on the left belongs to which category on the right. So again, you're going to have to pause this because I'm going to keep going, but take a second and start connecting them. Okay, I know this is a little bit of a confusing slide, but let's go through. So next belongs under the categorization of time because we're showing what comes next. Okay, so this is really where we're talking about order. Moreover means addition. So we use moreover when we're providing additional support for what we are saying. To illustrate is shockingly under illustration. And to illustrate, remember, means to provide more detail. So this is a great transitional word when you're digging deeper into what you're saying. Similarly, is for comparison. So when you're talking about ideas that share similar qualities, you can use similarity. Similarly, there we go. Remember, comparison is between two or more ideas, and this can be similar to contrast, but compare usually means finding similarities between ideas. Nonetheless is contrast. So nonetheless shows us that we are then presenting a differing idea or point of view. And this is really important in our academic writing because we usually want to share any challenges to what we are saying to show our readers that we are being inclusive in our information. Because is cause. So when we're talking about cause and effect, we're talking about the relationship between ideas. This causes this. So we can say this is because of something else. So because is often an overlooked transition, but it's showing a relationship between ideas. To explain is clarification. So clarification is going into more detail about what you're saying so that your reader understands you well. This might be a little similar to illustration, but illustration usually means that you're providing an example. Okay, clarification means that you're providing more explanation. Okay, so those can be used in tandem, but clarification really is when you explain what you mean by something. So if you've been to my other videos, if you've been to my thesis statement video, you know that I have talked a lot about how in your introductions, you want to explain what you mean when you're using maybe vague words or undefined constructs. So this is a great way to clarify. So if you're talking about the construct of society, you can then explain exactly what you mean by what that construct means to you. And last but not least, we have certainly, which is intensification. Intensification is used. I do want to kind of asterisk this one and say that we just don't want to use it in a way that presents our writing as very subjective. Of course, our writing is subjective, right? It's because we are an individual person, we're making decisions. Of course, our writing is subjective. But we want to make sure that our intensification is left to transitional words and phrases, and we're not intensifying our writing using adjectives, because that really kind of gets us into a subjective realm that we want to stay away from. So that's why we can use something like certainly, and that can show us intensification through transition. That was a lot. So if you need to pause and just take this in, that's great. Take your time. All right, so let's take a look at this paragraph. Now, this has a lot of transitions, and I use this paragraph specifically because it does. But you don't need to use as many transitions. There might be some in here that you say, hey, I don't want to use this. This is not my style. So for example, at the end, it says to sum up. Oftentimes we don't really use concluding transitional words or phrases. In advanced academic writing, we can show our conclusion in other ways. However, when you're writing, I would say that use as many transitional words and phrases as you want. And then as you're going through the editing process and the revision process, that's when you can kind of start taking those training wheels, I'll call them, off of your writing and decide what you want to keep what is actually serving a purpose, and maybe what was just used to frame your writing to begin with. So we can see that this is a great example of using transitional words and phrases within paragraphs. And this is really where you're going to use most of them. You can see that there is not a transition at the beginning of our topic sentence. For my friends who have not watched the video on topic sentences, our topic sentence is our first sentence of each body paragraph. And that's because we don't need transitions at the beginning of our topic sentence. Again, you might want to, and then just remove them later if you're just working on organization for yourself. But our topic sentence should be direct, should be concise, and we should understand its purpose based on the content instead of the transitions. But some of these are great. Instead, the homeless individuals, Furthermore, it is up to the leaders. Indeed, these efforts, however, because, for the purpose, to sum up. So, you can pause this, you can read this if you want. But again, the purpose of these transitional words and phrases is to show connection between ideas, as well as give your readers a little bit of insight into why you chose to write what you did. So take a second, pause the video, and please read through your document or documents and identify your transitional words. So go ahead and highlight them, underline them, bold them, whatever you need to do. If you're not finding any, that means that you might want to add some. And so then you can look at your ideas and see how you've connected them. And if you feel like your writing is pretty choppy, it doesn't flow, adding transitional words and phrases can help with that. So go ahead and pause this video and identify your transition words. All right, everyone, we have come to the end of this mini lesson on transitional words and phrases. As always, please come and visit us at the Writing Center. If you need any help or support, you can send in your writing, meet with a coach, and we are here to help you. If you still have any questions about your academic writing or transitional words specifically, you can always reach out to the Writing Center. I always encourage students, if they're struggling with something specific, to share that with their writing coach so that the writing coach can provide feedback specifically to that part of your writing process. So if you're really struggling with transitional words, you can go ahead and let us know and we can help you with that. Thank you all so much for coming to this mini lesson on transitional words and phrases. If you have any questions, reach out to the Writing Center. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your day.